Hey, Judy.
Todd, I'm gonna make you co-host. I'm at a beach house and I worry about the internet connection.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make you co-host just in case.
You have to tell me where the beach house is located, though.
It's Lido Beach in Florida, where they had all of the hurricanes and tornadoes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's devastating in some areas, but other areas not. So we're doing okay where we are.
That's good. Yeah, I haven't been to that beach, but yeah, that looks like it's right where the last big one
Yep,
came through.
yep, yep. Yeah, it was really bad. But this house is on stilts, so and it's a block and a half from the water, so it was saved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Hi,
good.
everybody. We'll be starting in a minute.
Go ahead and share the presentation I put together.
Yep,
Can you see the PowerPoint?
I do. It's not in presentation mode.
Yeah. Okay. All right, should be in presentation mode now.
Yes, I could see it. What a lot of people. Yay.
Good.
Hi, this is Tom Rickard. I haven't met my colleagues for quite a while. I used to be extremely active in TRB.
Yeah, of course.
Our committee, and so it's great just to join you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Good to see you, Tom.
Good to see all of you. Some I've not even met before.
Yeah, our committee is the composition seems to have changed a little bit, which is nice. We have a lot of diversity.
So it says Susan Rickard there where my name is, and even though I live here in San Francisco, I'm not Susan Rickard. I'm me, Tom Rickard. So
Good. We know who you are.
very good.
Getting all my Zoom windows open so I can go back and forth between the chats and the participants and everything. Fortunately, I have one nice big monitor to balance things out. Good to see some familiar names and new names.
We
So it
have
looks like
about 36 people. Yay.
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. And we'll hopefully get a few more participants. But yeah, this is great. I'm getting excited for our activities at the annual meeting, which we'll talk about today. But thanks for joining us for the AME50 Accessible Transportation and Mobility Fall Virtual Meeting. For those of you that haven't been to an AME50 meeting before, my name is Todd Hansen. I'm a senior transportation planner now with KFH Group, and I'm one of the co-chairs for the committee along with Judy Shanley. Judy?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're excited to have you all. This is Judy Shanley. I'm at the National Office of Easter Seals, and I work on several federal grants, including the National Center for Mobility Management. Happy to have you all participate. And Todd, I don't,
go ahead, Judy.
I was hoping people could type their name and affiliation and put that in the chat. We're going to have the transcript available, so please do that as we're talking and introducing folks.
Absolutely. It looks like most are already, but yes, if you haven't already, please do so. Yohai and then Chunkbo.
Hi, I'm Yochai Eisenberg. I'm the committee research coordinator for AME50, and I'm at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and I'm an associate professor there in the Department of Disability and Human Development.
All right. Thanks, Johan. Chungbo?
Hi everyone, my name is Chengbo Ai. I'm an associate professor in civil engineering department at UMass Amherst, and I'm the paper review coordinator. And I'm also a member of AED40, which is the GS committee. So good to see everybody.
Perfect. And we'll hear from Chungbo real soon on the paper process. It looks like Subash is here. I'm not sure if Susan is, but go ahead, Subash.
Hi, good evening from India. This is Subhash Vasist. I'm communication coordinator for this committee, and I head Center for Accessibility and Built Environment Foundation in India.
Perfect. And thanks for joining us at a late time for you as always. That's what makes our committee cool, is the international membership that we have. And Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan Clark. I'm manager of accessible transportation with the Canadian Transportation Agency, and I'm also a communication coordinator for this committee. I do the newsletter and I guess somewhat of the secretarial function for the committee.
Perfect. Thanks. So we'll go ahead. We have an hour for our agenda today, and I think we'll mostly talk about some things leading up to TRB annual, but just a quick rundown of the agenda. Actually, realizing I have mentoring program twice on here, so we're next going to talk about the paper review process, which Chungbo will give us the rundown of what we were doing in September and leading into October in terms of sessions. At TRB, we'll talk about AME50's plans in terms of sessions that were associated with at the annual meeting in January, as well as content for our larger committee meeting section. We'll see if we have updates from TRB to share, depending on which TRB staff member is here. Talk about the resources available at the newsletter and website, and then we'll have some updates on Trans Ed conference planning and research statement teams, which we want to feed into the larger meeting at TRB annual. We'll touch on the mentoring program that we're getting set up, and folks have already expressed interest in that, so we want to re-highlight that. And then any liaison report outs and other announcements as we get into the discussion. As always, people have been signing in, and just as our ground rules for AME50, we'll keep an eye out on people as they raise their hands and unmute and stuff, but and we'll try to call on people to participate in the discussion along the way. Please make sure only one person speaks at a time, and we'll monitor the chat as well and share for those that type ideas into the chat, share those aloud. Let us know if you're having a technical issue in the chat. We'll see if we can solve it along the way. And then as always, with our group, be open to different ideas and perspectives, which we're all passionate about in this topic of accessibility and transportation. So Chungbo, go ahead and give us the rundown on the paper reviews.
Okay, sounds good. For those who have been here for a while, probably see the similar setups for the paper review process. But this year we have 51 papers submitted, a manuscript submitted to our committee. Actually more, but we finalized with 51, which is 50% than last year. And then there are 27 submitted for presentation, 24 submitted for both presentation and the consideration for TRR. We accepted 24 papers for presentation and recommended 5 to proceed with the TRR reviews. And then all the papers had 3 reviewers except the 3 which had I think one of them had 4 reviewers and 2 of them have 2 reviewers, but with very comprehensive reviews. So this year, I'll show in the next slides a slightly different process. But the key topics are falling similarly into the category we had last year, and then just create some, I guess, word cloud to show some of the topics. And then you can see the words sort of have the repeating themes from previous years to this year. So older populations, on-demand mobility and technology, public transit and paratransits, pedestrian accessibility and trip planning, etc. So, so next.
And I'll add while I'm
ahead.
changing the slide. I think we had 63 papers that were originally routed to our committee, and then Chungbo and I got with Bill at TRB to reroute some of the papers that were not dealing with our type of accessibility in the transportation space. So, and I think this is up from, we had 30 something last year.
Yes.
The papers 34. That we got, so a higher portion this year that we received.
Yeah, so we did a slightly different things. Hopefully this year you didn't receive as frequent as last year, the annoying emails from me, because we did this, I guess, a review request process, and then we did a quick survey, and then there were 84 responses, which is great, and they indicating which paper is in their area of expertise or of interest, and then also indicate the maximum number of papers that can be reviewed. So we use that and create a master sheets of matching, I guess, a different interest with what we have received. And certainly we prioritize our members. We want our members to have the first dips on the selection and then move on to the friends. And then if you remember the response, we sort of indicating the ratings of which one do you prefer from ranking from 5 to 0 to 1. So we pick only if you indicate the ratings greater than 4 or equal to 4, which means you are in this area but also interested. And then we share the title and abstract through the survey, which I think it's I guess it give you more information to make those conscious decision of what do you want to review. And the maximum reviews is smaller than whatever you indicated. Some of you indicated 3, some of you indicated 1, and there are a few folks that are really willing to help and indicated 10 or 6, but we didn't assign more than 3 to any individual, just to make sure that you have enough time and the concentration to finish the review with a good quality, which you all do. So, and then the evaluation process, when we receive those, and then what we observed is with the response, we actually get a much earlier reviews back, and also with the return rate is higher than previous years, which is great. And then we just use those values to do our screening and then the ratings for quantitative measures. And then as I indicated last year or previous years, these are the ratings or the percentage that we are giving to each questions, because we thought the questions are not really evenly weighted, shouldn't be evenly weighted. For some bigger weight, whether data are valid or methods are valid, we definitely give higher weights. And then for the question 5 and 6, we use a separate consideration because they're indicating the presentation and the publication considerations. And then the narrative evaluations, we sort of use the quantitative ratings, gave us some kind of a list, and then we go into the narratives and to make sure everybody has the I guess meaningful and informational reviews. And then if some of the reviews are sort of conflicting with each other, we review them individually to make sure like they're addressing the similar concerns or similar positive things for the paper. So that goes to the final decisions that you guys are receiving. So that's pretty much.
Yoha, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just so impressed, Shengbo and Todd, by this process. I think it seems really like you've honed it down over the years, I've noticed, and made it really work well. And just wondering if you have it like documented somewhere in a way that can ensure that it'll be replicated in the future, so that somebody else could step in when needed, if needed, to be able to reuse this process, which seems, super well done.
I'll jump in here, but I thought, and we want to, I guess that's related to the deputy PRC thing, but I don't have like a instructional step-by-step, but I do have all the spreadsheets and then the examples, which actually Todd originally shared with me a few years back. And then we keep adding to different steps and then
Modifying it, yeah.
So yeah, modifying it. So I'll be willing to whoever want to help with this process, I'll be willing to share like what are the steps and then going through the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great,
It's-
this is Judy, that's a really great idea. We get a lot of accolades, and thank you, Changmo and Todd, for your leadership in this. When Todd and I participate in our section meetings with John MacArthur, they're always acknowledging how comprehensive we are in our process. So thank you.
I think it's a good idea for just the different leadership positions in general, not just paper reviews, but others in terms of usually we've had the previous person train the new person, sort of thing informally, but Yohai, to your point, having a better, more consistent process than that, I think would be great for all of us. And looks like there's a question from someone in the chat. Is there documentation about how to submit papers for the review process and timeline? This is an awesome process. Is the question in relation to submitting papers for consideration to a review? So usually that comes from TRB generally. We have issued a call for papers, and AME50 has in years past, about specific topics that we are interested in. We didn't do one this year. We did one last year that I think we have just applied to multiple years. I think maybe we could have done a better job this year of recirculating that. But maybe the next go around next year when we try to solicit papers for or people to submit papers that would hopefully go towards AME50 and are about accessibility and transportation research, we can include some copied instructions from TRB in terms of how to submit in a timely manner.
Yeah, there's a lot of TRB has a real interest in consistency across each of its committees. And so during the section meetings, we're sharing information about our processes, and TRB and in their oversight is really ensuring that there's consistency. So that's why being on our listserv and getting our announcements and also getting TRB's announcements are really, really important.
Absolutely. So yeah, Chungbo, if you want to, and I can tag team with you on the deputy PRC.
Yeah, I mean, just thank you for all the reviewers. And then regarding the process, I guess is I'll go through the entire steps that I went through, and then whatever help that I can get, I think it will be great. And it seems like we are on the trend of receiving more papers, and then if that is the case, definitely. Certainly, there is some uncertainty regarding the paper submission decisions for TRB in the future years, but I think the trend is there, so it will be great if we have. I mean, we can have some help. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add, we want to help Chungbo out, especially if we're going to continue getting papers at a higher clip. So if folks are interested, I think we want to have a more discussion about folks who are interested in what that role can entail, and help refine the process for review and evaluation that we're using next year. I think from our perspective, and speak like Chungbo was saying, I think the survey worked very well, and we'd like to hear feedback on that for those of you that were reviewers and took the survey. And if any further thoughts that you have about that, we can talk about that more at the committee meeting at TRB to see what we can improve on that end. But I think it was a success that Chungbo putting that together based on some other model examples and helping with the matching process based on folks' interest and expertise. Okay, well, to go ahead and transition to talking about what we're going to be doing at the annual meeting, I'll let Judy first talk about our workshop session.
Sure. Many of you know, and some of you were involved last year, we organized a session on accessible aviation. And this year we're doing the same. We're moving it forward a little more since there has been pieces of legislation that have been put in place. So we have a really eclectic panel that has invited the participation of other committees having to do with aviation accessibility policy. And the session is called Innovation, Equity, and Accessibility in Air Travel, or the places we will go. And it's on you likely know that the workshops are usually either on Sunday or Thursday. Our workshop is going to be Thursday, January 9th in the morning from 9 to 12 at the Convention Center. And you can see here some of the other committees that were involved in planning and will be panelists. We have a policy section where we have folks coming from the FAA and the Department of Transportation. We have a practice segment where participants are going to be sharing some strategies that they're using to facilitate accessibility. And what's exciting is we are also talking about innovation in terms of air travel or air movement, air mobility with the new vertical airport programs that are coming into play and ensuring that those are accessible from the get-go. So we'd love your participation in the workshop session. I'll share more specific information about the agenda. Actually, the agenda is already posted to the TRB program, the annual committee website. So please take a look at that. And what has been exciting about this work, I think for all of us involved, is we're really building on work that has been done in fixed route and transit. And so the airline industry is looking at some of the trainings that we've done, policies regarding bringing wheelchairs on board. And I think we're learning a lot from ground transportation and the work that FTA has done. So we hope you all participate. Thanks.
Absolutely. And so make sure if you're coming to TRB in person to stay through Thursday, if you can, so that you can be, attendee and participant at this great session. I'm excited to learn more about vertical air transportation and such. So it'll be a good discussion with all the topics and activities that we'll have here. Just looking for questions, and if not, I'll keep going. So we, as per usual, we're going to have some lectern and poster sessions. And yes, David.
Sorry, but I'm intrigued. What is vertical transportation? I always assumed that air travel was vertical.
I'll start, and Judy can correct me. I believe there's now air travel devices, not basically an advancement from helicopters and more like vertical liftoff sort of airplane, small aircraft type mobility. And basically things in that space have advanced in newer vehicle types, vertical takeoff and landing. Thank you, Nathan and Alan in the chat. I wish I should have included a couple and maybe we can send and follow up to the meeting a couple visual examples and research articles that illuminated a little better in advance of the workshop.
That's interesting.
It's really responding to land density, David. Where at a traditional takeoff of an airplane, you need a lot of land. This kind of technology is really built for city infrastructure. And there's a company, and Alan shared EVTOL is a company that's big in the manufacturing, and what the committees for TRB are most interested in is ensuring that those, as the technology is advancing and designs are being met, that we're thinking about accessibility for wheelchairs and people with disabilities from the get-go. So we don't have to retrofit these kinds of devices. It's really, Vinesh put a Wikipedia page, but yeah, Todd, I'm happy to put together some resources and can Adam and others can contribute to it, but we'll share that with y'all. Really fascinating.
But yeah, good question, David. Obviously, I don't know what they are either.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, to continue on about our lectern and poster sessions that we're going to have. These are put together as we've done in previous years based on the papers accepted for presentation. And really, I did this just based on the time deadlines to put together the what we had. But I can, based on the papers that we accepted, I put together some themes, and then the leadership folks helped confirm the 2 topics that we'll have for lectern sessions, because we had a collection of papers that were focused on accessibility, pedestrian accessibility, both accessibility levels and measuring them. So we have our first session will be accessibility of streetscapes and measurement tools. And that is Monday morning at 8 a.m. bright and early. And then immediately following, in the same room in Convention Center 146C, we'll have a session on public transit use and traveler needs. And we have a few papers that we received about public transit mode choice for older adults and persons with disabilities, and different types of transit modes. So that'll be interesting as well to see transit use and user choice and accessibility in different types of transit and different urban versus small city versus rural settings will be a part of that session. The rest of our papers that we receive for presentation will be a part of our poster session, which will be on Tuesday afternoon in the Convention Center Hall. And the topic of that is research and innovation in accessible transportation and mobility. And then just for to highlight this, even though it's not a session, but it's a committee meeting, the subcommittee that we're a joint committee on with AP055, the Rural Transportation Committee, as well as AP020, the Emerging Public Transit Technologies Committee. I didn't get those titles exactly right, so I apologize, but AP055 and AP020, our joint subcommittee with them on paratransit is on Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. In the Marriott Marquis. And fortunately, that does not conflict this year with any of our sessions, nor does it conflict with our committee meeting, which will be on Monday afternoon. So that is good news in terms of schedule and conflicts, as we don't have any conflicts between our sessions. So you can, if you go to the TRB program and just search AME50 when you're browsing the program online, all of those sessions, as well as our committee meeting, and the paratransit committee meeting will pop up, and you can add all those to your program should you choose to. So I'll start talking about our committee meeting content, and then Judy and others, you can back me up. But we'll be, as we've done in years past, we'll have a 4-hour time block. So a lot of content and topics to go through. We do want to, as we have in years past, and this has been popular for folks that can't make it in person, have a virtual connection. Hopefully we can borrow the meeting owls that we have from National RTAP in the past. And I think because the Rural Transportation Committee, I think, meets on it at a different time, so we should be able to hopefully borrow them as we trade them between different committees, but we'll check on that. So we'll have a similar setup to what we've had before. And one of the things we talked about this at the last meeting, but to start getting folks to submitting interest now, we will have highlight presentations for a good one of our blocks of time within the 4 hours. And these are things that, outside of what people are presenting research papers on in more detail, we want to have some kind of quick fire presentations on different work in progress or initiatives or things related to accessibility and transportation. And we heard last meeting that folks have liked these the last couple of years we've done this, so we want to do it again. We have an online interest form. I'll put it in the chat, or if one of the leadership chairs from our agenda can put this link in the chat. That if you are interested in doing a presentation, we encourage you to, as early as you can, to submit via the online form. If the online form's not working, you can just reach out to Judy and I directly. We do want to get we'll send out and follow up from this meeting. I should have put a deadline here, but by early December, we want to get all of our submissions for people that are interested, so we can review those. We want to avoid the last minute crunch of, Judy said the form should have deadlines. We want to avoid a last minute crunch. We get sometimes of people, hey, can I present on this and this and this? And we want to cut down on that as much as we can, so we have a proper amount of time in our general committee meeting. So we'll reiterate what the deadline for submissions are as far as that. But please, if you're interested, submit. And Manish has a question. You can, if you're interested in doing a remote presentation, provided that we have, and we should have the virtual connection. We can do a remote presentation and have you share slides and do that as well. We certainly welcome that. I think
we don't,
maybe not.
Just one thing, Todd, we're going to have to make some hard decisions, I think, if there are too many highlight presentations. They were very well received last year. I know that you all like the opportunity to share your work. It's not about selling anything. There's no commercial products that would be shared, but it's a really nice teaser. So they're kind of short and sweet overviews of what you're doing. But if we have too many, we're going to have to make some decisions. Maybe we could have another forum after the TRB conference where you share some of those highlights.
That's true. And thanks, Susan, for putting that in. So yeah, we encourage you to do that. I'm looking for questions on that. The other thing I think we want to make sure we do this year that we shortchanged a little bit last year on Yohai's and cut into Yohai's time, but we want to have a solid block to talk about research needs and research topic development. So we're going to make sure we reserve a good chunk of time to do that, and Yohai can lead that effort during the meeting. Any other, aside from our usual committee business, and this can be from anybody, but just from Yohai, Judy, other leadership chairs on things for the upcoming committee meeting, larger committee meeting.
This is Judy. I think one of the things that we also heard people liked is those liaison reports, like similar to what we're going to do during this meeting. Many of you have interests across TRB committees, and it's a nice way to update everybody regarding the synergies between our work and other committees. So those of you who are liaisons to other committees, please be prepared to share a 5-minute update on what's going on in that other committee.
Yeah, that's a good, and to one thing you reminded me, Judy, and I've talked about this with Kristen Gladwin before, is maybe thinking about some better synergy with the older drivers subcommittee that we're not connected to currently, but given the amount of older drivers or older adults papers that our committee is getting now, and some of them related to driving cessation, but directly, I think I'd like to talk about at the larger committee meeting, some potential greater connection, more formal connection that we could do. So I'm going to put that on my notes as well.
Yeah, good idea. And Alan suggested Kelly Buckland from the Office of the Secretary. I know, when this meeting occurs, there's going to be potentially political changes and staffing changes in the secretarial office. So if Kelly's around, I'm sure he would be able to do it, but we'll have to it'll be a wait and see what happens, but I'm sure Kelly would be happy to do it. If we can't get him, maybe there's someone else from the secretary's office.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Any other comments before we continue on the agenda about what you'd like to see at the larger meeting in January? Okay. Well, and I'll double back if needed to, but while I'm looking for that, trying to see if someone from TRB is here, Christy or
Catherine.
Catherine. Yeah, I don't see them. We're our section
Todd,
just, yes, David.
I'm sorry, I have a thought.
Okay, go ahead.
Should, forgive me, but should someone be on point to make ourselves aware of what is happening in the FTA and OST environments in light of the election? It'll be very early days, but
Mm-hmm.
there could be some fairly radical change. I wonder if we want to have someone on point, or TRB will just do that
Talk about
anyway.
that. We can see. I think it's a good note, and as Judy said, perhaps we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks without getting too detailed in terms of that. But the what if there are significant changes that start occurring in the early days, and particularly in January, from what we can tell. As best we have, I think it's a good note to talk about them. And if we don't know anything, but there's potential, shift in what FTA OST is doing, we can certainly talk about that, in relation to our committee and generally. So we'll make a note of it, David. But if it might be a case of we don't know. We don't know sort of thing, but it is an important point in terms of potential shifts in policy and otherwise.
Thanks.
Yeah, good note. So just to say real quick, currently our section, the AME00 Transportation and Society section is currently being covered by Christy, as well as Catherine Cordham from TRB. So they will share if they have any updates before TRB before the TRB annual is part of our follow up to this meeting. Just FYI, but I don't think from what Judy and I've received in the last few weeks, there's any other than they would like you to probably plug for people to register for the meeting and all that stuff. I'm not sure when the early bird deadline is for registration. I think it's a little bit earlier this year, but I think it's sometime later this month. If someone knows the early bird deadline for TRB registration and can put it in the chat, please do. I just wanted to plug, and Susan and Subash, you can talk about the newsletter as well as the website. I don't think anything in terms of our content and the features have changed from the last meeting, but Susan, you first, and then Subash in terms of the newsletter.
Sure, thank you. As you say, there's not much to update. It's the same every time. We continue to invite submissions for the newsletter. Quite often they're going out after these quarterly meetings, and a lot of the information shared in the newsletter is what you're already hearing at the meeting. So it's beneficial for those who can't attend, but certainly if we can get some additional content that's of interest, that would be great. One thing to keep in mind is it's not meant to be a forum to share information about commercial products. But other than that, it's fairly wide open if it's something that would be of potential interest to committee members. One thing I'm considering doing is I think I note the months that we put out the newsletter, and I'm aware that we've missed the mark the last few times. I think we were to have an October one, but here are meetings November 1st. So I might make a little update to the website just to say it's quarterly, so people aren't looking for that. And of course, to make sure you're receiving things, and I guess it's not an issue for anyone on this call because you are receiving information if you're on the call, but it's to keep your profile, my TRB profile, up to date so that you don't miss out on information. So that's something you can share with colleagues who may have an interest in this committee. I think that's it, but I'm welcome to questions or for anyone to reach out if you ever want to share information. And my email address, I'll put it in the chat, but it's also on the website.
Thanks, Susan. Sebastian, anything you want to add on the website? I have these resources from that we shared at our last virtual meeting on that we added to our website on useful websites and reading resources based on what we identified and what people sent.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. I don't think we have many newer updates, except that you can get any new information. A link to that is available on our homepage. So any new item added on the website, you can actually see it on the homepage itself. There's a direct link. So instead of surfing through the entire website, you can get the information on the homepage itself. So that's something that I can update. Recently, I think I've added some resources which are available on useful the reading resources the link. The rest, I think, yeah, there's nothing more that I have to add. Thank you.
Thanks. And yeah, if you have something that either from your own organization's efforts or from what you work with or else otherwise you think would be useful for people to know about in these parts of the website, please reach out to Sebastian in terms of adding to the resources and useful things that we're collecting and posting there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next, update from Judy on where we are with TransEd as of now.
Sure. I think I shared with you all during our last meeting that we had interest in a university in the UK to host the TransEd 2026 conference. Since there's been some political and financial changes at the institution, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to host. I've also shared that one of the biggest challenges that we've had is the financial burden that having a TransEd conference has potentially for an organization. Institution has to lay out money and then hope to get reimbursed through registration fees. And so it looks like we're back at the drawing board for another national entity to host us. We've been considering some international forums that have ongoing meetings as a way to integrate accessible content. So as of this time, we don't have a sponsor or a host or a date for TransEd. We were thinking of 2026, but as time grows closer, you all know how intense it is to plan an event like this. It may not be realized in 2026, but we're still looking for host organizations, host conferences, and probably make it most efficient and appealing to another organization is if we can embed it and integrate it without losing the tone or the purposes or objectives of TransEd. So happy to share any more information, but it's just been, honestly, it's a tough process.
Yeah, and so I think just to add on to what Judy was saying, if you have ideas or thoughts on other potential partners, in advance of the committee meeting in January, please reach out to us and we can pursue those. I think otherwise we can see if maybe Judy and ideas prior to TRB annual with folks that had signed up for the our planning committee, to at least support it in some way. Maybe we could have a huddle call together to go over in more detail where we are and what some of those potential ideas for pursuits would be to come into the January meeting and share back on some further ideas and potential leads.
Yeah, one of the really great things though that is happening, and I think this has to do with Victoria Sheehan's approach as executive director of TRB, is more and more we're seeing TRB establish real strong and meaningful partnerships with international organizations. And so that creates opportunities for us as TRB is developing relationships, potentially planning mutual conferences and events. That opens up opportunities for TransEd. So I'm optimistic about the relationships that they have and how we could leverage those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Judy. Yeah, we'll find a way, but yeah, it's a tough environment right now. We'll continue to work towards that and get with folks on our planning committee to help pursue that further. So next, Yohai, I just want to give you a chance to talk where we are with the research statements and to maybe think about the upcoming CRP deadlines. I actually didn't update this slide from our last virtual meeting, but anything you want to highlight? I know with the TCRP program, I think that TCRP research statements are usually due around March. Whereas the TCRP synthesis statements are usually due in June or July. So maybe particularly for anything related to transit, research statements to just plug in terms of starting to move ahead with thinking about that March deadline and finalizing research statements.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and just for folks who are new, if you'd like to kind of get familiar with how this works, as a committee, we have kind of a subcommittee, but we don't call it a subcommittee, we call it a task force. And our role is to develop research needs statements. So to identify what are the research needs around transportation related to accessible transportation and mobility. And I think we've it's really a collaborative process. So it's less me being like, oh yeah, I wonder about this and this, and we should do a research statement about it. And sometimes I do, involve my own interest too. But really, it's about the group here, and so it's more of a crowd generated from the knowledge and interests and your awareness of the needs of what's important related to accessible transportation and mobility, especially for people with disabilities and older adults. And so one of the links in the chat here is just like an introduction to the kind of research needs and problem statement planning approach for our committee. I try to put everything on Google Drive to make it accessible and let you take a look at how the process works. And then it has some of the different general timelines. I think I have the 2024 timelines, but anticipating, I was just kind of scoping out a little bit. They haven't updated the web pages yet, but anticipating that a lot of the timelines would be similar in terms of, as Todd was mentioning, March and June. And then, there's 5 different programs listed at the bottom of that page for different cooperative research programs, depending on your area of interest: transit, airports, highways, and roads. And there's also a link to we had usually kind of start this off, but in a little after the meeting, but really the ideas were kind of working in teams to develop these statements. And, that can happen anytime. And this, as Todd mentioned, I think this is a good time for some of those teams to coalesce. I have another sheet here. It's more of a Excel or Google sheet that's listing some of the topics that committee friends and members have identified that they'd like to potentially develop into a statement. Several of those have dropped off, and a lot of it is related to interest. So often what's needed for a idea to go from idea to development into a statement is 1 to 2 key leaders who want to help in shepherding the process through. I'm more of a resource and sometimes support in terms of quality improvement and in connecting to different DOT related figures who can help in actually submitting some of the statements. But a lot of the writing generation comes from individual members who want to see this topic come to fruition in terms of moving from a research need statement to a request for proposal and a funded research opportunity. And so Todd had on our last slide, oh, thanks for putting some of these ideas here. So a lot of really, important ideas, and, they get fleshed out as our teams meet. They usually meet virtually. And want to give a thanks to Caitlin Levin from Tool Design, who's kind of been helping me. There's so many teams that I can't really be there for all the teams, so we've split them up, and really appreciate Caitlin's work to help in guiding some of the other what we call mini teams to both meet and think about what needs to be done, and then turn that into statements. And so there were 2 teams that developed statements for the NCHRP program. Kaylin led one that was about integrating equity and justice performance measures into the life cycle of transportation projects. Very interesting and timely topic with a mini team from our committee. And then I helped Jim Elliott from Tool Design and several other folks with a statement on designing accessible cycling facilities for older cyclists and cyclists with disabilities. So 2 very relevant, important topics, I think, that were submitted just yesterday. And now the next step is another committee will meet to decide if those will get selected for future becoming future funding opportunities. So if you have ideas, if you think they're important, reach out to me. We can start to think if other people are interested as well. Usually if we have 2 to 3 people, that's a good number to start with. More is good too, but that can really be the kind of starting point for turning your ideas into a research needs statement.
Absolutely. And like I said, we want to talk more about these ideas and others at the larger committee meeting at TRB. And just to add on to what Yohai was saying, and Judy mentioned, we had a problem statement for TCRP on recruitment of people with disabilities and transportation careers. That was a big win and a need in terms of research. And so we've been seeing, I think, in TCRP, and I'd also, from what I've observed in the ACRP program, has had a lot of statements related to accessibility as well. So there is, if it's a good, strong statement, and there's a gap in research, I think we've seen in the last few years a lot of success in problem statements and synthesis statements to accessibility, getting becoming RFPs and getting issued.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, like I said, encourage you to reach out or potentially suggest different topic ideas that we could get folks around, and then hoping that at the meeting in January, we could have kind of more of interactive discussion to generate some of those key ideas and research topics, and also encouraging new ideas, interdisciplinary ideas. I invited a colleague today to the committee who's from the public health area and interested in kind of crashes among people with disability and looking at news articles to pull out disability data, because disability is not included in most crash data and more yeah. So yeah, encourage different ideas that we can generate.
Thanks, Yohai. Judy, I want to give you time to talk about the mentoring program.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of inquiries from less seasoned professionals in our industry, and we took an example from several other committees that had a mentoring program, and we established a pretty informal mentoring program. We've got a form if you are a mentor and have expertise to contribute or want to support less seasoned members of our committee. Just it's a way to build relationships and build professional acquaintances and knowledge of each other's industry. So the links to the mentor directory are there, as well as if you're interested in mentorship support. And I was thinking, Todd, as we were planning this meeting, that maybe at some point too, we'll have just an informal webinar for those participants in the mentoring program. And we'd like to collect data and evaluation feedback on how it's going in the long run. So that's very briefly the mentoring program we hope you'll consider being involved in. I see that there was an error in the form for the highlight session, and I'll correct that immediately. So thanks, Mahat, for bringing that to our attention.
Thanks, Judy. And yes, we'll share to the comment on sharing the slides. We will have the links. I will. Can I copy these real quick? I'll share these real quick since people are asking about it. Let me exit out of here. Copy link. So this is the link to sign up for the membership directory. Oh, that's a very long link. Sorry about that. And then here's the link for membership support. Basically supporting the people that are interested. Let me paste that. That's another really long link. Sorry to clog up your chat box like that. But we'll also share it after the meeting too, as well as these slides. So as we'll get to wrap up in a second, I did want to give the opportunity for any liaison report outs based on your recent meetings or things you want to share and lead up to what you'll be doing at the annual meeting. I didn't send out an email asking in advance this time around for folks, but just or if you're listed as our kind of designated liaison person or otherwise, these are a lot of the other committees that we associate with in some way. I'll just share briefly for AP090, the Transit Data Committee. They will be having their transit data challenge that they do with, it's always really interesting, different research project submissions and new ideas in basically creating useful information for transit riders and transit providers. And so that's something they'll have as part of the annual meeting. And then during their committee meeting, they kind of like our highlight presentations, but they have them a little bit longer and really spend the majority of their committee meeting time on really highlight research and new products or other sorts of things related to transit data and services. So that's what's happening with 090. Any other folks raise hands or unmute if you want to share an update? Going once, going twice. And I'll just plug again about the paratransit subcommittee that we have with AP020 and AP050. And I know we have a lot of our members and friends that are members and friends of that committee as well. So definitely want to make sure we have good cross-pollination and coordination with that. And we'll reach out to Aaron with that subcommittee to make sure we're up to date on what's going to be happening during the annual meeting. Okay, I'll move ahead for any other open discussion. One thing, I got an email from actually this morning or yesterday from Benito Perez at Transportation for America. He shared updates at our committee meetings previously on their accessible streetscape design guide that they're putting together. They are now at a first draft stage of this guide, which is intended to help provide information on accessibility and streetscape elements, and how to create more accessible streetscapes and importance of those elements and considerations. They are looking for reviewers and experts to help review the content of the draft guide. From the email I got, it sounds like they'd like most of that review to take place in November. So if you are interested in helping to review, you can reach out to Benito Perez and let him know, or you can reach out to me and I'll connect you. And I'll share his email real quick in the chat. Copy the link to let him know that you're interested there. Any other general announcements people want to share? We have one from Alan on US Access Boards, EV charging, NPRM. They have a comment available until this Monday. Thanks, Alan, for plugging that. So if you're interested in commenting on that, visit the link Alan shared on EV, commenting on EV charging.
This is Yochai, this is kind of a random thought, but sometimes those pages, those comments, like I wonder if there's a way to simplify them. And I don't know if this is something you're doing, Alan, at all. I know you're doing some presentations on this, but I myself have a tough time going through them sometimes, right? In a way that's meaningful to be able to comment on them. We talk a lot about developing plain language materials, but wondering, are there plain language versions of some of these that make it easier for more people to comment on?
Hi, this is Judy. I think that's why organizations like APTA, the American Public Transportation Association, and other membership type organizations like the Consortium of Constituents with Disabilities and Paralyzed Veterans of America are so important, because they take that, they're governmental affairs people. They know the language, they're attorneys. And so I think whenever we have an opportunity to share any of the synthesis that those organizations do, I think that we could do that. You want to be really careful that you're not interpreting something that the rule didn't intend.
I see your point. Yeah.
And so APTA, I follow a lot in APTA because they put things in plain language, and PVA and CCD and those kinds of organizations are really helpful. And maybe we can, if it's appropriate, we could share those kinds of comments in, on our website or in other forums if it's appropriate.
Nice.
Yeah. And thanks, Alan. We encourage folks to comment as well. Certainly. Well, we'll go ahead. We're at an hour. So just to remember, we hope to see a lot of folks at TRB if you're able to attend in person. Again, our committee meeting will be on Tuesday, and we'll have a virtual connection available. We'll send out more information on that and lead up to the meeting. And Susan, you have something to add?
Just looking at that, I looked at the online program and I'm pretty sure it said our committee meeting was on the Monday.
Yeah,
So-
I think so, Todd. I
Oh,
think
did I miss?
Yeah, I think it's the committee meeting is on January 6th, 1:30 to 5:30.
You're right. I just miswrote it on this slide. So let
No
me
problem.
correct
I just
it.
thought we should update the program
Yeah.
if it were wrong too. Thanks.
Oh, no.
Thank
You're
you.
right. This is a slide preparation error on my own, yours truly. So it is on Monday, January 6th, our committee meeting. Thanks for that correction. So if you, and of course, open invitation to please reach out to the committee leadership anytime you have ideas to share and things we talked about earlier today. And good to see everybody.
Yeah, we had 50, close to 50 people. So thank you all for your commitment to this work. We've recorded it and we'll send out some notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you in January.
Todd,
Hopefully no snow in DC.
Judy,
Yes,
and Todd, it's David.
yes.
I've been trying to raise my yellow hand, and I don't seem to be able to do anything that technical.
Okay.
But so I'll just interrupt. I
Sure.
have a sad announcement that some of you will know the Professor David Gillen at the University of British Columbia,
Oh,
a significant transportation economist. He died yesterday.
oh,
Mm,
terrible. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, David. Yeah.
He,
If you could send a link to any information about that, that would be wonderful. Maybe we can.
mhm. And we can
honor
share
him.
it.
Yeah, during our
was-
committee meeting.
he was in the process of updating the lawsuit, the analysis for the lawsuit in Canada concerning one person, one fare, accessibility for attendance of people with disabilities. And he was on the right side of that one, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And he was
yeah,
doing a
yeah,
lot of analysis.
yeah,
He took over
Yeah.
from yours truly.
yeah.
So-
Well-
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And we're very sorry to hear that. But David, please send us more information that we can on David that we can pass along to our members and friends and be sure that we honor him.
I sure will.
Mhm.
Thank you, everybody. Be well, be
All right.
safe.
Mhm.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.